Okay, so the physics side of all of this may not make a ton of sense right now. That's fine. For the sake of the argument, just take my word for it that people can be expressed as oscillating waves between unity and chaos, or order and chaos, control and surrender, those two polarities, chaos or destruction, creation, polarities. So you're oscillating between these two polarities. So to go back to the sort of children, talking about children. So let's say you have a mom over here. Let's see. You have a mom over here and a dad over here. And these two people are not, they still have really widely varying oscillations. So, first of all, these two people are not going to be able to exist in much proximity to each other. Because remember, the lines cannot cross like this, because that's death. One of the other of those people are dying. So if we assume that they each have to have their own course for their waves to go on, these two people can't have a lot of proximity, because if you the places where these waves would intersect if they got too close, there has to be some sort of negotiation of where those oscillations are going to go. And when people are not aware of their oscillations, that usually looks like conflict. So, this person has insisted on chaos in this area, which has forced this person into unity. And then they come back and force chaos, and this person is forced into unity. And there's this, it takes a lot of energy to go back and forth between these massive oscillations. So these two people are already not super, super well set up. But let's say they get together and they have a kid. The kid is then between their layers of oscillation. So because the mom and dad have more power because they are adults, and you have I'm not going to get into that right now. Just take my word for it. The parents have more power. The kid learns to keep their own oscillations in check to avoid conflict with the parents. Or maybe they are, it can also go the other direction where the kid has oscillations, tries to force their power into, and along with their parents' oscillations. And so that kid might, be extremely temperamental, have all these intense oscillations. But for now, we'll talk about the kid that just kind of gets forced into not having a lot of oscillations. That's all very well and good, except then when the kid ends up around other people let's say the kid ends up with another person who grew up the same way. Neither of them have had experience creating bigger oscillations, which are sometimes needed in order to transfer energy. But actually, I'm going to wait to talk about that until I further explain what I mean by the transfer of energy. So, I think I called it something different in the last video. Oops. The law of conservation of energy means that larger oscillations require more energy to change and maintain. We're in a closed system, so the energy has to come from somewhere. So if, whoopsies, let's just hide that again and come back to this layer. So, the energy has to come from somewhere. So if this person has this big energetic change, in reality, we don't have enough distance around us to, we don't act in a vacuum. So if we want to have this energy shift to a bunch of chaos, or offload energy to go into chaos, that has to go somewhere. And that gets transferred onto the people around us. And exploitation is the movement of energy from one source to another without the consent of those beings. So, let's say I'm feeling too constricted in my life and I need to offload energy. And this is my friend who I'm offloading this energy onto. It's forcing them into a state of focus and unity so that they can absorb all this energy that I'm throwing at them. And if they weren't prepared for that, that's exploitation. And so these large oscillations without cooperation necessitate conflict. And when, if these are not individual people, but countries, this looks like, let's say country 1 is here taking resources from country 2 in order to provide some stability and unity for themselves. That country is going to inevitably pull back to try and stabilize themselves here. And it's just this endless cycle of giving and of taking and then taking back, and this just endless cycle of conflict. Whereas, let's get rid of all of that. The conservation of energy, oscillations that have a lower range of variation require less energy to maintain and repeat. So these 3 beings or countries or whatever that have put conscious effort into maintaining maintaining this low oscillation state can exist in closer proximity to each other because their oscillations don't require as much space. So cooperation is the conscious movement of energy from one source to another in order to accomplish an agreed upon goal. So that's where, so let's say person 1 is the blue one here. The blue one here. They're saying, okay, so I have some energy that I need some energy to create some unity, because I've had this period of unrest and chaos. And before it gets to be too major an oscillation, I need some help. So this green country is saying, yep, sure, here, take some of our energy. We're starting to have too much, and we don't want our oscillation to get too big either. And so by communicating in that way, before these oscillations get to be so extreme, they can create harmony between them. And you can still have large oscillations when necessary. So like, let's say country one is like, country blue says, hey, we had this major oscillation back here in our past, and now, we're trying to stabilize along with you guys, but, we need to offload some of this energy. These two countries can willingly take on energy or give away their own energy to promote unity in this country, so that and if all these people are cooperating, then it requires less energy from any individual source. Like, if one country is let's see, if, let's say, this country is not agreeing to any cooperation, then these two countries over here can decide, okay, well, we're going to oscillate really strongly over on this side to give this other country in the middle more resources. Anyway, that's getting unnecessarily complicated, though. So, all of this to say, love is simply the desire to conserve energy. Love is the innate, in the same way that we have a sense of balance, a sense of proprioception, a sense of cold, a sense of, like, we have all these different senses in order to help us navigate our oscillations. Love is just the desire to conserve energy. So self-love is conserving one's own energy. Love for someone else is what allows for cooperation, which allows you both to conserve energy, which comes down to, again, conserving your own energy. Loving lots of other people allows for even greater cooperation, which allows for even more energy conservation. And a love for humanity is the desire for the entire planet to distribute its energy in a way that allows everyone to exert the least amount of energy possible. So, and again, that boils down to this bottom one, the love for humanity, ultimately boils down to just a love of self. It's just like it's just a different scale, in the same way that you can recognize that, oh, okay, like, 10 degrees Celsius is cold, but negative 20 degrees Celsius is even colder. That's all this is like, oh, like, this is cold. This is even colder. That's all love is just our, like, the more love we have for someone or for ourselves is a measure of how much energy they will allow us to conserve.